Welcome to thestockmentor.com. I'm your stock mentor, Brian Johnson. And the market's making another move upwards today. Bulls looking good the last few days, breaking some overhead resistance areas. Most of the indices breaking the overhead resistance areas. We'll get to the SPX here in a minute. It did have kind of a very clean, as I would call it, a very clean run from a technical analysis standpoint. But by the end of the day, markets noticeably up. The NASDAQ making a real bounce back. This was something that I had kind of been waiting for within the NASDAQ itself. It had been the laggard, slowing things down a bit, but I knew it was only a matter of time that it was going to catch up to kind of where the rest of the indices are, making one of those more major moves today, up 1.4%, while the next closest was the SPX, which was still still just below 1%. So, pretty major move by the NASDAQ today within the tech stocks themselves. As for the market internals, looking pretty good. Got some pretty good confirmation out of them today, in which we have not had over the last few days, and getting confirmation as well from the VIX. You'll see where the VIX ended up here in just a minute as we pour through the charts. Okay, so breaking above this line, talk to you about these overhead levels. That 12,100 level was a good area to be looking for a bit of a long position going into the day. On a move above that, you see we moved up into 12,150, and we sat around for a while. Kind of took our time in between the 12,150 and 12,200 area. Before, at the end of the day, we were up from that 12,150 area just barely, but you can see pushing hard on this overhead resistance area of 12,200. So from 12,200, we have some overhead resistance from that point on. Right up here around that 12, I'm going to call it about 12,275, 12,300 actually on kind of the bigger end if you want to be more cautious in your trading. But nothing ultimately broken yet from the bulls side. So things holding very well here. This little pullback being very slow, very gradual, very, very controlled. Aiming us towards higher prices here, follow through today. So the bulls still doing very well, very reminiscent of what we have been watching in the past. Now, where are we at in our Elliott wave count? We can only guess, but this could potentially be an ABC, XABC type of a correction we are in. So could be more of a complex correction that we're seeing from an Elliott wave standpoint. Still need more information. This is not a point. Once we get into these corrections, I play corrections a little bit different. I've been telling you guys about it. Something I'll definitely cover in my Elliott Wave webinar at the end of the month. It's on the 31st of the month. So in my Elliott Wave webinar, we'll talk about this. I really like this move. This will definitely be an example that I'll be going over in my webinar as we cover kind of not only how to see the different counts, but then where they ultimately take us over the next couple of weeks. So here we are with the move up in the markets and up above these overhead resistance areas. Okay, going to the daily, you can see yesterday we put in that little high, or that broke that high base formation. It's kind of a pullback slash high base, if you will. Got above in the Dow anyway. Now the Dow's been a pretty strong little monster lately, but you can see it getting back above these moving averages here, closing above it today with good follow through today. Not bad. This move so far looking very sharp for the bulls. Any kind of a move back down, look to see if these moving averages don't hold on any kind of approach to the downside. Otherwise, above it's that 12,300-ish area that you want to be more careful of. However, bulls pushing this thing up as we've seen in the past. Now this one a little bit more sharp, but not to be surprised from the standpoint of we were down quite a bit. We had a really good move by the bears here, but you can see it slowly, potentially slipping away from the bears. They had their moment here in the sun, and now slowly giving it all back to the bulls in that slow, steady, grind away at it type of a fashion. Moving on to the NASDAQ, here's that big mover coming where? Right into nice overhead resistance. My breaks were above 2275 to 2280-ish, and that's your long, taking it up into 2300. Made it for a very nice 20-point move today. If you potentially held out, you made another 5-10 points by the end of the day. Very nice trade for those of you that have been following along the last few days. And look where it came. perfect overhead resistance. Right back into that 50-day moving average, breaking the 20, not really even holding too much here as well, which was a big surprise. Didn't really stall here too long before breaking up and through, and the bulls took over and were able to grind their way all the way back to this overhead area of the 50. That is your next area to be watching now for overhead resistance within the NASDAQ, but still a little bit behind the rest of the market. So don't be surprised if we see another day where the NAS is ever so slightly leading the rest of the indices. From a weekly two coming into what'll be about the last day of the week, things looking very strong from the bull case. The only question we have to worry about is what will the participation be and where will we ultimately finish at the end of tomorrow's trading. And then we'll talk more about those weeklies. SPX 60-minute breaking up and into where? Overhead resistance. We broke this 1300, this 1305 area. This was a big band of overhead resistance for me, and once we got up and past it, you can see how we just trailed sideways, wandering between 1305 and 1310. These were kind of the next areas to be watching, and ultimately by the end of the day, we held the 200. Now, didn't quite get the break that we saw from the Dow. Not to say that the SPX won't follow this. Maybe it's just a little bit behind the rest of the markets themselves. But you can see holding tightly to this 200 at the present time, and from a daily perspective, finally getting up and over these moving averages, though. This area here was a huge conglomeration of overhead resistance, and it was broken today, much as what we saw on the Dow. Going back to the Dow Daily, you see the break and the hold above it yesterday, then a follow-through day today. We may be looking for that exact same type of motion tomorrow. Let's see if that follow-through comes. Then you're looking at overhead areas of 1320, 1330-ish area for your next levels of overhead resistance moving into tomorrow's trading. Watching again any type of gap up or down in the morning. VIX daily coming right back down to 18 and sitting where? Right on support. So right back to this lower area, down 6% today though. A huge move by the VIX lately. And for the week, a crushing blow to options people. If you happen to be in some sort of indice puts, you got killed this week. Not only by the move up in the markets, but the move down in the VIX absolutely destroyed a lot of what you probably had going on. So this is the effect the VIX can have on the markets itself, showing, once again, here comes contentment. They're just not all that worried right now. Things pouring out of it. Now, this is a weekly we've got tomorrow, and it could spike. It could spike every bit as quickly to the upside as it has to the downside. But right now, as of this moment, we are down 26% in the VIX for the week. So every bit as quickly as we moved up, we are now moving down. From a bearish standpoint, I really would have preferred to see this thing hold a little bit tighter to these upper areas. Still could do that by the end of trading tomorrow, that 1920-ish area. But just, boy, looking pretty weak right now. So we'll see if there's any kind of a pullback tomorrow that might help the VIX get back up into 1920 and try to keep some semblance of a bearish look. It's anybody's guess. So we'll see where this closes by tomorrow, but you can see the VIX really bleeding itself out. Apple 60 minutes, slow grind. Take it easy to the upside. 345 is one of my overhead levels here to be watching. You can see where it stopped right at it with a high of 346. This thing did pretty good today on the slow grind upward. So Apple continuing its move to the upside and actually starting to look pretty good in through here. Maybe we make this overhead level here of 347-ish or so, 346.50. I don't know exactly where that's at. That's going to be pretty close. And if we see any kind of a pullback, I don't know. I wouldn't be so surprised if it was kind of shallow and slow, meaning that there could be some more upwards direction left in Apple. I'll tell you where the areas are to watch, and as always, the more conservative is still back above this 347-ish area. Let it get back above all these areas here, break these things, and really show that there's some strength coming back into it. This could have very easily have been an ABC correction that we're looking at here. Yes, it could be a 1, 2, 3. This could be a 4 with a 5 down. We just don't know. But for the time being, I got to treat it as more of an ABC and give my edge to the bulls only if they can get it back above these moving averages. How about that? So really watch. For the more conservative traders, you really want to see that break above this area. Once again, watching our gaps, our potential gaps, come tomorrow morning. From a weekly two, holding this 20-week moving average after closing below it last week. Give the bulls, I always give them a week or two to get back above it. So far, so good. It would have to be a pretty big disaster, I think, for this thing to really drop, with the low being 335, and be a hefty move of about 10 to 15 bucks to get that thing back below the 20 week by the end of tomorrow. So the news can lead it any way it wants to, but overall, you got to kind of look at the Thursday into Friday as a pretty good indication of where things are. But we know that if you follow me for any length of time, we know that weeklies can change very quickly. Very quickly. Look one way Thursday, will look something completely different on Friday. So we will wait to kind of garner some more information from tomorrow's trading. See what we can't get. Levels haven't changed for me, though. Looking for that overhead level of 347-ish or so for the more conservative traders. FAS was up as well today, running itself up today. Overall, over 1% with a 39-cent change. Nothing more major, though, on either one of these from the kind of a swing traders, or if you're going to, kind of hold this thing for any length of time. We didn't get any of those breaks. I like it maybe below 28 or 27, still above 30.31. Yeah, just nothing today. We're back into the sideways consolidation. This is a good place for people to get their hands slapped, so be very cautious. Here's that sideways trickle that we see over and over again. This pattern just appears. We get about 2, 3, 4 days maybe of really decent trading within these ETFs, and then they wander. Makes it very, very difficult if you want to try to stay in for the long haul. Then the same thing on FAZ, and that is you can see it up, now down again, coming right back into that 41, 41.50-ish area, and ultimately at, on, above, holding this channel while still working within this channel. Kind of cool how that works sometimes, isn't it? So we have two patterns working with and kind of against each other, but no breaks one way or the other. You didn't see a break above here, you didn't see a break below here, so there's still no real entries in either one of these ETFs. Okay, coming into Friday, let's see where we finally finish up for the week. Could have a wandering sideways, boring type of a day. Might see some good movement early in the day to start things, and then kind of die off for the rest of the day. Tends to be a pattern that happens a lot on a Friday, so be watching for that. But ultimately, watch the morning session. See what happens. See where if we gap to start the day, and where we head the first 15 to 30 minutes of the day. Look for your trades then, and always keep your stops in place. Okay, still taking signups. 1 week from today, Elliott Wave webinar, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. 9 p.m. Eastern Time. It's going to be a good time. I think it'll be well worth your time to come in and sit in and visit and learn a little bit about Elliott Wave. Talk to you again probably tomorrow.